The House held its latest impeachment hearing today as President Trump's allies doubled down on a ludicrous conspiracy theory about Ukraine. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. This morning, the House Judiciary Committee held its second hearing, laying out the impeachment evidence against Trump. Now, as we've established, Republicans have no counter-argument on the actual merits of the case. For example, they're so desperate that this morning on Fox News, Republican Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy argued that you shouldn't be allowed to impeach a president in their first term.
In modern history, we've never gone after impeaching a president in the first term.
Is that really your argument? We shouldn't impeach him because it's his first term? Everyone knows the founder said you can commit unlimited crimes until your second term. Republicans can't contest any of the facts, so instead, during the hearing today, they tried to stall by staging as many dumb interruptions as possible and forcing Chairman Jerry Nadler to gavel them down.
The House Committee on the Judiciary will come to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare recesses of the committee to...
Object.
Objection noted.
Comments have not...
Without objection...
Ruling on the point of order.
You made a ruling on the point of order, Mr. Chairman. You can't then not allow us to...
The gentleman is not recognized.
The rule was the obligation, not consideration. You are obligated.
Motion table is not in debate. Gentleman will suspend. Gentleman is not recognized.
Mr. Castor gets the chance to offer rebuttal. Nobody asked for this break,
Gentleman will suspend.
Or the witness. Bang it harder.
The gentleman will...
Will you let him finish his point of order, please?
Made his point of order. Gentleman will suspend and not make a speech.
Man, that gavel's getting a workout. When this is over, Jerry Nadler's going to have one giant Hulk arm. Republicans had to engage in these dumb stunts because they have nothing else. For example, they also demanded that House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, who conducted the first round of hearings, testify during today's hearing. And to really hammer the point home, they brought in a poster that said, "Where's Adam?" and another poster with Schiff's face on the side of a milk carton. Why? Why do these look like middle school art projects? I mean, can't Republicans hire someone who's good at graphic design? This looks like something a crazy guy would wear on a sandwich board in Times Square. Now, this, of course, follows the GOP's proud tradition of bringing very stupid posters to official House proceedings, like the time they made a poster that said, "Liar, liar, pants on fire," for Michael Cohen's testimony, or the time they brought in a poster accusing Democrats of acting like Soviets during the first impeachment vote. At this point, Republicans are the only thing keeping the D.C. Kinkos in business. If you walk into Kinko's now, their price list includes black and white copies, color copies, dumb Republican posters. Now, the main point of the hearing today was to let lawyers for Democrats and Republicans lay out their cases, and the Republican lawyer was a guy you might remember from the first round of impeachment hearings, Steve Castor. In those hearings, Castor often struggled to question witnesses. At one point during the first round of hearings, his line of questioning was so bad it flustered the witness and left him speechless.
And in fairness, this irregular channel of diplomacy, it's not as outlandish as it could be. Is that correct?
It's not as outlandish as it could be. It's a little unusual for the U.S. ambassador to the EU to play a role in Ukraine policy.
Okay. And, you know, it might be irregular, but it's certainly not outlandish. And then Secretary Perry.
I mean, that's probably the same series of faces the Kinko's employee made when Republicans asked them to print those dumb posters. Can you put this man's face on a milk carton? It's for Congress. So that's the guy. That's the guy Republicans had making their argument today. Now let's compare the Democrats' lawyer, who presented a lengthy body of evidence, witness testimony, and video evidence, to Castor, the Republicans' lawyer.
President Trump's persistent and continuing effort to coerce a foreign country to help him cheat to win an election is a clear and present danger to our free and fair elections and to our national security.
To impeach a president who 63 million people voted for over 8 lines in a call transcript is baloney.
It's a baloney. Really loses the drama when the word you're ramping up to is baloney. You know, you never hear a detective in a mystery novel saying, "I've deduced that the suspect's alibi is baloney." Castor's demeanor throughout this whole thing was that of a guy who knew he was fighting a losing battle. In fact, instead of keeping his documents in a briefcase or cardboard boxes like most lawyers, he showed up to the hearing this morning with his papers in a grocery store tote bag. I mean, look at that. It's like he forgot about the hearing until the last minute and had to find whatever was lying around his house. I bet there was only one piece of paper at the top of that bag, and the rest of it was just organic produce. And the fact that he kept all his papers in a grocery bag might explain why he didn't seem to know very much about what was in them. The Republicans wrote their own report rebutting the impeachment inquiry, but when Castor was questioned by the Democratic counsel about a key element of that report, he didn't seem to know anything about it.
Quote, I thought that the references to specific individuals in investigations, such as former Vice President Biden and his son, struck me as political in nature, given that former Vice President is a political opponent of the President. So you left that out of your staff report too, didn't you?
You know, Miss Williams,
Sir, did you leave that out of your report, yes or no?
if you're telling me I did, I mean, I don't know as I sit here right now whether that's in the
I'm
report.
telling you, you did.
Okay.
Hold on, I think I might have the report in my bag. Just let me... It's a rude bag. You guys, I think I brought my groceries. What we saw yet again today is that the Republican Party, Donald Trump, is fundamentally untethered from reality. And my favorite recent example of this came on Friday when Trump was at the White House talking about repealing environmental regulations, and he said this truly bad thing about toilets.
We have a situation where we're looking very strongly at sinks and showers and other elements of bathrooms where you turn the faucet on in areas where there's tremendous amounts of water, where the water rushes out to sea because you could never handle it, and you don't get any water. You turn on the faucet, you don't get any water. They take a shower and water comes dripping out, just dripping out, very quietly dripping out. People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to once.
Hey, man, just because you have to flush 10 or 15 times doesn't mean everyone does. I mean, look at your diet. Standard toilets were not built to withstand this. I bet the White House toilets are like those theme park models that'll suck down anything. You know, when you flush them, they sound like an F-14 taking off. I bet at least once a day the Secret Service knocks on the bathroom door and says, Mr. President, you still in there? It's been over an hour. And then he says, hold on, I'll be right out. Son of a gun, I gotta flush again. My favorite part, though, came right after that when the president said this.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to once. They end up using more water. So EPA is looking at that very strongly, at my suggestion.
Oh, was it your suggestion? I'm pretty sure we all knew where it came from. I mean, can you imagine the EPA going through their suggestion box at the end of the week, and it's like, all right, bring back Casual Fridays. That's not a terrible idea. Oh, new coffee for the break room. We can do that. And let's see what we have here. Look into toilets that have to be flushed 15 times. You turn on the faucet, and you don't get any water. You take a shower, and water comes dripping out very quietly. Dripping out. Guys, who told the president about the suggestion box? So, Trump won't tell the EPA to deal with a climate crisis that poses an existential threat to the planet, but he will tell them to look into toilets that supposedly have to be flushed 15 times. But still, you got to give it to Trump. He might not know how toilets work. He might not care about the climate crisis, but when he's right, he's right. And later, at that same event, the president said something that even I cannot criticize because it is undeniably true.
You have many states where they have so much water that it comes down. It's called rain.
Can't argue with the man. Got there tight. Sounds like the sports guy in the local news who had to fill in for the weatherman. And the clouds, there's no other way to say it. They had too much water. They're puking water. It's also called rain. But this is how detached from reality Trump is. And as we've learned throughout this impeachment process, it's not just him. He's brought the entire Republican Party along with him. Just take Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Now, you might remember him as the guy who grew a beard and looks like Santa's deadbeat brother. Well, to defend Trump during the impeachment inquiry, Republicans have been pushing a ludicrous conspiracy theory that Ukraine interfered in the 2016 election. And that's what Trump was concerned about. So Cruz, who was himself the subject of several Trump conspiracy theories during the campaign and even once called Trump a pathological liar, went on TV yesterday and repeated that insane theory to the shock of Meet the Press host Chuck Todd.
Do you believe Ukraine meddled in the American election in 2016?
I do, and I think there's considerable evidence.
You do?
Wow. You know what you just said is crazy when the person you're talking to reacts like that. It's like if you were at a party and someone said they hate Baby Yoda. You do? But all he does is sip soup. He doesn't want trouble, you monster. Now, in that interview, Cruz pointed to an op-ed written by a Ukrainian ambassador in 2016 criticizing Trump. But that's not even close to the criminal Russian hacking campaign, and it's not what Trump was talking about on his infamous phone call with the president of Ukraine. Trump was repeating a deranged conspiracy theory that the Democrats had somehow colluded with Ukraine to interfere in the 2016 election and hide a Democratic computer server which does not exist in Ukraine. It's a theory that's so insane, even Fox and Friends gently pushed back on it when Trump brought it up during a rambling interview last month.
They have the server, right, from the DNC, Democratic National Committee.
Who has the server?
Now, the FBI went in and they told him, get out of here. You're not kidding. We're not giving it to you. They gave the server to CrowdStrike or whatever it's called, which is a company owned by a very wealthy Ukrainian. And I still want to see that server. You know, the FBI has never gotten that server. That's a big part of this whole thing. Why did they give it to a Ukrainian company?
Are you sure they did that? Are you sure they gave it to Ukraine?
Well, that's what the word is.
How do you know what the word is? You don't even know how toilets work. I heard they hid the server by flushing it down the toilet 15 times. Every single part of this conspiracy theory has been debunked, and yet Republicans have been mindlessly repeating it to defend Donald Trump. For example, the cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike, which did help the Democrats investigate the Russian hacking, is not owned by a, quote, wealthy Ukrainian, and the server does not exist. And when Republican Congressman Randy Weber found that out on live TV last week, he was shocked.
Chris, was CrowdStrike involved in the DCCC hacking?
Yes.
Or is CrowdStrike in part owned by a Ukrainian?
No.
Really?
Yes.
That's not the information. Yes, really, or yeah. That's not the information that we have. And
you
the
have
president
bad
is
information.
What Trump is saying is go back and let's look at all of the information on the DCCC server that helped
there was no
fight
server.
against his campaign.
They operated in a cloud system. There is no server to steal.
Well, clouds are even worse, because according to my weatherman, when the clouds get too full of water, they burst. And it's called rain. It is undeniably called rain. So, this theory has been thoroughly and repeatedly debunked, and yet Republicans keep claiming they're going to find more evidence to prove it. In fact, last week it was reported that Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, traveled to Europe and Ukraine again, even while he's personally under criminal investigation for his ties to Ukraine, to try to prove his theory that Ukraine meddled in the 2016 election. And Trump suggested this weekend that Rudy might even present his findings to Congress.
Rudy has decided there's no better time for a trip to Eastern Europe interviewing people about Ukraine. More specifically, working on a new project to discredit the Democrats' case against the president. According to the Times, Giuliani was in Budapest Tuesday meeting with an ousted Ukrainian prosecutor trying to dig up dirt on the president's political rivals.
Well, I just know he came back from someplace and he's going to make a report, I think, to the Attorney General and to Congress. He says he has a lot of good information, but I think he wants to go before Congress and say, and also to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice, I hear he's found plenty. Yeah.
Oh, is that what you hear? Did you hear it from Rudy? Boss, you'll never believe it. I found the server. The one the Democrats sent to Ukraine. He's here at a restaurant asking me to order something. Also, please, I'm begging you, please let Rudy testify before Congress. That would be amazing. It would probably take 5 minutes to get him to accidentally admit to everything. The guy breaks down under zero pressure. He's already confessed on TV and given us all the evidence.
Did our State Department ask you to go on a mission for them?
They did.
So you did ask Ukraine to look into Joe Biden?
Of course I did. And you know who I did it at the request of? The State Department. It's all here, right here.
Rudy already held his own trial where he confessed and indicted himself. It's like watching a one-man show called My Mother's Italian, My Father's Jewish, and I'm in Jail. So just to recap, these guys don't know how impeachment works. They don't know how computers work. They don't know how toilets work. They're pretty close on rain. All they have are delusional conspiracy theories they've concocted to defend a criminal president, and everyday new evidence of Trump's corruption
comes dripping out.
This has been A Closer Look.